One Piece, debuted in 1999 by Toei Animation, is seemingly about a young boy drifting through sea in a barrel, claiming that he's going to be king of the pirates. Although if you're a fan of the show like me, then you know that the show is about way more than that and has so much depth that people will take notes when watching. And I'm not joking about that either. What's up, everyone? My name is Leftaro, and today I'm going to be talking about why One Piece is peak. Now, before we get into the video, I want to make it clear that this video is about my opinion about the show, and about how One Piece changed my life, my perspective on life, and had positively impacted for the better, and even being one of my core inspirations for making the channel in the first place. I am not trying to push this onto people, and the intention for this video is just sharing my thoughts and feelings about the show. There will also be spoilers, as I genuinely cannot find a way to express how much of an impact this show has had on my life without dropping some. So if you plan on watching the show, or you are but you aren't caught up, I suggest you wait until you catch up to watch this video. Otherwise, let's get into the video. So before I even started watching it, my self-esteem and overall perspective on life was pretty terrible. And it was only getting worse. Life to me felt like everyone was just forced to fall in line and go work an 8, 10, 12, or even 15-hour day job just to come back home and hardly have time for yourself because you feel so drained that you just want to go to sleep. Felt like the only purpose I had in life was to be a convenience for other people, no matter how much of an inconvenience it was on me. I felt like I didn't have an identity or any worth in life due to this, and honestly felt like all I was here and born to do was to be a workaholic who has no time for anything for themselves, and to be a people pleaser. One of my best friends in high school for the longest time was telling me about One Piece and kept telling me that it was peak and worth watching. If you've been watching my streams recently, his tag is kindly. He's been playing with me on Dead by Daylight. At first, I didn't buy into it for two reasons. Reason one, because I didn't have Crunchyroll and didn't want to pirate the show off a website. And reason two, I wouldn't even have the time to watch it with the amount of people-pleasing and work I was juggling at the time. This went on close to a year before one day I just caved in and started it. And for me personally, from episode 1, when he busted out of that barrel and said, "I'm gonna be king of the pirates, and if I die chasing that dream, then I die," it felt like old me was just taken out back and dealt with old Yeller style. It had me hooked and intrigued as to what the show had to offer, and little did I know, I was about to go into the most life-changing journey with this guy. At the time of me starting it, I was able to binge it because my job at the time allowed me to have a lot of privacy, and I'd watch it while I worked, only pausing it when things got busy and I couldn't pay attention. So take that along with watching it when I was relaxing before bed, and you have a recipe for a very committed binge watcher. Now I'm going to admit that getting through the first few arcs was pretty bumpy and rough. The pacing wasn't that good, and it felt like things were dragged on at times. Although what kept me going was the fact that I was binging it. Yes, the pacing still felt bad, but it didn't feel as bad as I was watching around 10 to 15 episodes a day. If I was lucky, 20. Before you asked, yes, I skipped the intros, except on the first episode of a new intro and the outro to make this possible. I can guarantee though, that if I didn't binge it like I did to get through those first few arcs, that I probably wouldn't be making this video right now. And no, I'm not saying I would have dropped it either. But at the time, I would have put it on the back burner for either Bleach, the Thousand Year Blood War, or Dragon Ball Daima, being that I was a Dragon Ball and Bleach fan before starting One Piece. It wasn't until around Water 7 is when I started to notice just how impactful this show could get. And I know you're probably thinking right now, Leftaro, isn't that over 300 episodes in? Why should a show take 300 episodes to start getting good? Why do I have to commit so much just to start getting to where it gets good? Well, let me tell you, those were the exact thoughts that I had before I went into it. But the reason that it's like that is because of how One Piece is written. Oda, the author and creator of One Piece, writes the story like you'd solve a puzzle. You start with the outer pieces first before you can work on the inner pieces and see how everything is connected. When people say that Oda is the king of foreshadowing, I can officially say that they're right. You'll get callbacks to episode 1, even all the way into the 1100 episode mark. It is also why I suggest that you take notes on things, because people will say and mention things that are very important, even if it's from generic Pirate A. Anyways, Water 7 was my opening of the third eye moment for me. I count and put Enies Lobby with Water 7 as I feel like they're one big arc instead of two separate ones, despite being two different islands. Robin's backstory at the time was the one and only backstory I feel like I could relate to on a personal level. I didn't have a one-to-one experience of what she had, of course, although when her mom got off by the world government, it hit me differently. I felt like I could sympathize with her because when I was her age in the backstory, I lost my biological mom via getting arrested for substance abuse. It was the first time I actually cried in the show, and honestly any source of media, because I could relate to her on that regard. It was also the thing that solidified its spot in second, which was where Bleach was at originally. I want to quickly give a nod to Thriller Bark. This arc for me is severely slept on, as it's the arc that introduced Bing Sake, or Bing Brew if you watch the dub. This song, when I first heard it, sounded like a regular sea shanty. While I love sea shanties, I wouldn't put it on a playlist because it'd be weird going from listening to System of the Down to a sea shanty. But it wasn't until we got Brooke's backstory that made me add this song to my normal playlist because of the meaning behind the song and ties to his backstory. Once I learned why this song was so important and impactful to the show, anytime I'd hear it, even if it was just me humming it to myself, I couldn't help but feel happier no matter how bad the situation may be. I could be dangling over lava by chains, and I would still feel happy singing Bing Sasake. Marineford was another hard-hitting arc for me. I want to make it clear that I take Amazon Lily up to the end of Marineford and combine them as the Marineford arc, as there are things that happen in Amazon Lily and Impel Down that have huge effects as to what happens at Marineford. Now up to this point, I have grown so attached to Luffy that I felt like I was watching a version of myself. When the iconic donut scene happened, while it hit hard with Ace dying and him being his brother, it hit way harder watching a version of myself go through everything he did up to that point just for it to not be good enough and fail anyways. My life, I genuinely felt exactly that way, and it felt like a mix of deja vu while also feeling like being a bystander to myself watching it happen. After everything happened and they got back to Amazon Lily was when I said this show was peak though. The crash out Luffy was starting to have, and the iconic I'm still so weak scene felt so relatable and real because it felt like a visual representation of the pain that I've been dealing with my entire life. That's when Jinbei did his iconic monologue speech to Luffy. He said, "Luffy, your pain may be great, but it mustn't devour you. There is joy yet beyond your sorrow. What's gone may be gone, but you still have something left in this world to cherish, don't you?" After watching this, I needed to actually pause the episode because it felt like he was talking to me directly, and this was a turning point that changed my perspective on life, and I never at that point had a show or any source of media do that. Now, it didn't change my life like a snap of a finger, but it was like a domino that started to impact my life for the better. Now we jump to Whole Cake Island being the next arc that heavily impacted me, and currently is my favorite arc in the series, although Egghead gives it some competition, more on that later. Before you ask, no, I don't read the manga, but I do know the manga is currently doing some huge reveals that I won't share in this video for the anime-only watchers, but I do know it's an L-bath. Anyways, Whole Cake for me was already awesome given it was focused around my second favorite character, Sanji. A quick explanation as to why he's number 2 for me. Just like how watching Luffy is like watching a version of me now, Sanji was like watching my past self before I met my loving and amazing fiancé. He is nice to anyone and everyone, and his morals about always feeding those who are hungry, big, small, evil, good, human, or creature, it didn't matter. If you were hungry, he made sure you were fed. Always touched me. His kindness was the kindness I wanted to put out for people, and it inspired me to be more kind and open-minded towards people because of it, and is honestly why I'm always so grateful and happy to have anyone who clicks on my video, and try to show that kindness back by explaining how much I appreciate and love the support, even if it's just clicking on the video. What Whole Cake did was give an explanation as to why he is so kind and loving, and it felt like I was watching someone go through similar situations I went through growing up. While I wasn't getting beaten physically by my siblings and being disowned by my dad, I was able to relate to it on the fact that he went through all that pain growing up, escaped from it, and decided to be a kind person anyways. That's what touches me and inspires me. Plus, the relationship he had with his mom felt way too close to home with my relationship with my biological mom when I was younger. That felt one-to-one on a genuine level. Then we go to the iconic pudding scene. where he is standing outside trying to light his cigarette in the rain, crying, while Pudding is mocking him for wanting to actually marry her, and doing so would save his friends, similar to Robin. This also felt too real because while I didn't feel this way about my dating life, especially because I was engaged when I first saw this scene, I felt like it was very real and relatable because I had people in my own family that would do this to me, especially growing up. I've always wanted to be a content creator when I grew up because I wanted to make other people happy by being me and myself. And 95% of the time, my family would claim to support me, but then mock me behind my back and tell whoever they were talking to at the time that I need to snap back into reality because it isn't gonna happen. Watching that scene not only made my eyes turn into water fountains, but made me reflect on everything up to that point and realize that despite them doing that, I was still doing it. Granted, it wasn't videos or content like this, and it was more like montages and edits at the time, but I was still doing it anyways. I felt free and didn't really care about what other people had to say because it was what I wanted to be, just like how Luffy wanted to be king of the pirates. Ayo, editor Levtaro here. I just want to throw some clarification that I wasn't making that kind of content when I first watched the scene. I'm talking about when I was in high school first making content. That was when I was doing edits and montages. Watching that scene was like a revelation to why I was originally doing it back then in the first place. Anyways, back to the video. Now we get into Wano. And I want to be clear that I combine Onigashima and Wano into one arc for similar reasons that I put Water 7 and Enies Lobby into one arc. Now, I'm going to be clear here that Wano did touch me, giving its dark theming and everything involving smile fruits and being left with hardly any food and no clean water, while the higher-ups get it all. But it didn't affect me on a deep personal level like every other arc I previously mentioned did. I loved the build-up and story to Wano going into Onigashima, but Onigashima was where it touched me on a personal level. Before we get into the big reason, I want to mention this quote that Luffy had said to Kaido, with the interaction going as follows. Kaido starting and saying, "Is there any chance that you can beat me?" And Luffy responding with, "As long as I live, there are infinite chances." I don't think I need to go into a deep explanation as to why this quote resonates with me, even today. But I'm just going to say that it's the mindset that I have when it comes to achieving any and all obstacles regarding achieving what I want in life. Whether it's my content creation, my relationship with my fiancé, or competitive Mario Kart. Now add this with the big thing that was the turning point of my perspective of life, the thing that finally completed and changed it, and honestly made me a happier individual overall, that being Gear 5 and what it symbolizes. When I saw Gear 5 for the first time, it was actually when it first came out before I watched the show, although I had no idea what it stood for, how we got it, or even how it added to the story other than moving the plot along. So when I finally had all the other pieces I was missing and added them to the puzzle, it was not only making sense, but it was like a big bang for me. In case you don't know what it stands for, in my opinion, it stands for and is a symbol of being free and themselves, which is what I always wanted to be in life. I didn't want to feel like I had to fall in line anymore, be a workaholic, prove my worth when I'd never be proven in the first place, and instead just be me, free, not give a damn about what others think, and never lose sight on your goal, just like Luffy. That's when we get the Egghead, where Gear 5 is explained in further detail, and that Luffy is the warrior of liberation, the sun god Nika. Knowing that made my already obsessed ass, who is inspired to be even more inspired, because he is making the world a better place and fighting to do all that, liberating countries and saving them all, while being himself and still chasing his dream to be king of the pirates. It's why the character you see on almost every thumbnail is inspired by it. I'm not calling myself the sun god by any means, but I want to make others happy and be the light in the world full of darkness. It's a part of my character because I want it to be a reminder that you should live your life however you want and to be free. Never let anyone tell you how you should live your life. I also want to make a quick mention to Kuma's backstory, as it felt I could relate to him. Not by previous life experiences, but relate to him in the sense that what he did and everything he went through in his backstory, I would have done myself, which includes sacrificing myself, or in Kuma's case, losing his free will, if it meant that the ones I love and care about the most got to live their life to the fullest. Now I know this video was a lot longer in my comparison to my other two videos, and if you got up to this point, I just want to say thank you so much for sticking to the very end, genuinely. You didn't even have to click on this video, and the fact that you did means the world to me, let alone watch the entire thing. If you love the content, please consider hitting that subscribe button and hitting the bell for notifications, as we're doing daily content, whether it's uploads like this or live streams, until we become partner. So if you'd like to know when I go live or upload, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And if you have a Discord, join the Thousand Sunny Discord server, as I always notify the entire server every time I go live or upload. Don't forget to like and comment down below if you'd want to see more One Piece content, whether it's episodes, summaries, or reviews, or just talking about it like this one. I hope this video also gave you some insight as to why I wear a straw hat every single stream, as I don't wear it just because it looks cool, but I wear it because it represents Luffy, and as a reminder that no matter how tough things get, to keep pushing forward towards your dreams and to be free and yourself while doing it. With that being said though, this is Lev Taro signing off. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day, and goodbye.